Where can you find fair, honest, and reasonably unbiased opinions on world news and politics? I get a weird sort of smug satisfaction out of reading an article on r/world news, going to the comments, seeing the top comment with like 10k upvotes and 3 awards bitching about how America is so shit, then copy and pasting a quote from the article that shows the issue was in a completely different country. People just assume random shit without reading. Most recent one I can think of was someone went on some tangent about how these people were just being kept in prison cause private prisons making profits and slave labor and blah blah blah, and someone replied, "This is Canada. Canada doesn't have private prisons." I am amazed as well that it's so unknown. It's the best news outlet there and largely addresses people's concerns of biased news because they have some of the best journalists there is. They make everyone else look like bloggers. I really don't get why it's not more popular. Maybe because it's not 24 hours. It's because it's not 24 hours. My parents like to watch the news at 9, when there's only other biased choices. Edit, my parents generally watch CNN, but aren't huge fans of it. So they tend to alternate between that and local news channels. We have cable so I can check if PBS NewsHour is on demand. And yes, a huge problem is that people tend to think that pre-recorded news is old news, and focus on whatever is happening now to be the most recent and up-to-date. If you're willing to stream, I know many older people prefer cable. The YouTube channel has the episodes up all the time. Yeah, this is exactly the problem. My parents don't stream news. They'll stream movies and stuff, but they've this idea that since cable is live that the feed they're watching is live, and so they're getting up to the minute, actual, verified, trustworthy feeds. As if these stories aren't cobbled together days or at least hours ahead of time then put on the same 20-minute cycle. I also love PBS NewsHour. I assume it isn't watched by many because it doesn't include enough screaming and they spend more than 30 seconds on a story. My dad, who always complains about the news he watches, both CNN and Fox, apparently isn't actually interested in finding a better option, because I keep telling him PBS is the answer. When HBO's Newsroom came out and characters said they would present the news in this shockingly new way that isn't sensationalist, I was like, yes, this is what PBS has done for years. I love him because while he does seem to have a minor bias, as all people do, he doesn't fish for answers, which is what every fucking news does. Like he asks a question, gets an answer, and then when he gets an answer he asks something else. And the questions aren't supposed to trap you either, they're meant to be completely vague, open questions. Think he's getting a TV show. My mate from uni works at IKEA in LA and he came in to buy all the shit for his new app there. Exactly right. That's literally the news. It's what all the other places use, then put spin on it. Associated Press is just actual news stories. It might not give you the whole picture, such as the implications, always. But it definitely is the actual news. More than anything, don't rely on 24-hour news channels, or weird fringe sites you find on Facebook or something. When people ask this question, the problem is that they're generally looking for a more concise and easily digestible delivery method. Something you can digest with a bit less time and effort than the AP archives. And the closest thing that I can think of which fits that bill is PBS NewsHour. Everyone does this to varying degrees about everything. Imagine if you had to independently verify everything you ever heard, you'd certainly not be able to do it in one lifetime. Functionally, while it's important to form your own opinions and make sure you have all the facts, it's also important to find information sources you trust because it's just not realistic to analyze everything you hear for veracity. You should still do that when you have reason to, but it's silly to criticize people for looking for accurate news sources to help them understand the world. This is where all the news organizations get their news from. That was the case for a while, but clearly other media outlets are out there doing their own stories with their own spin built in. Regardless, those are two pretty legit sources of facts about what's going on in the world. People don't like them when they'd like to be told what to think about those facts. Edit, touch type. Reuters is just as biased as anyone. They for sure lean more conservative. They had a former correspondent quit because he felt they were suppressing stories about climate change. In Canada, the Thompson family, who own Reuters, are 100% conservative. David Thompson is the richest man in Canada. When their family has run into scandals, the media outlets they own won't touch those stories. Reuters pushes a ton of negative stories about Trudeau also. They feign balance but are no better than anyone else. The Associated Press. It's a non-profit organization whose content gets republished by tons of other news services. Their bias is about as minimal as you can get, because their tone is pretty dry and fact-based and low on opinions. Their website is simple and straightforward and low on ads.